My name is Rowan Mercer. I am 68 years old, and earlier this morning I buried the woman I shared more than 4 decades of my life with. Lila, my partner, my calm in every storm, the only person who truly knew me. When the last handful of mourners drifted away from the chapel in Denver, I stood alone beside her casket, numb, hollow, and unsure how the world was supposed to keep turning without her. But grief wasn't the only thing waiting for me in that room, because before I could even place my hand on the polished wood one last time, her boss, a payroll supervisor named Case Bridger, stepped toward me with a face so tense it didn't match the gentle tone he used with everyone else. He didn't offer condolences, he didn't hug me or tell me how sorry he was. Instead, in a low, uneasy voice, he said, "Rowan, I found something in her desk, something she hid. You need to come to my office. Tonight." His fingers tightened around my arm and he leaned closer so no one could overhear. "And whatever you do, don't breathe a word of this to your daughter or your son-in-law." It was such a strange thing to say that my heart stalled in my chest. I looked at him, confused, but he didn't blink, didn't soften, didn't elaborate, just repeated, "Tonight. Alone." I opened my mouth to ask what he meant, but before I could, he slipped back into the crowd like he'd never been there at all. I felt dizzy. Grief already had me on my knees, and now this. A warning? A secret? A buried message? Before I could steady myself, my daughter Iris wrapped her arm through mine. She had always been expressive, dramatic even, but today she looked strangely composed, too composed. Her husband Nolan hovered close, giving me a smile that felt stretched too tight. "Dad, come sit," Iris murmured, guiding me toward an empty pew. My throat was dry. I had no idea what to say, how to act, how to breathe. And before I could gather myself, Nolan knelt in front of me, holding a neat folder with color-coded tabs. "We'll help sort everything out," he said softly. "Mom wanted us to take the pressure off you. There are some documents we need to finalize in the next few days, but we can start later tonight." Something inside me tightened. Tonight. Just like Bridger said. Before I could ask anything. Before I could even make sense of the way Nolan watched me like someone studying a chessboard, I felt my chest constrict. I needed air. I needed space. I needed to think. I stood slowly, gripping the pew. "I need a moment." Iris gave my hand a quick squeeze. "Of course, Dad, we'll be right here." I stepped outside into the cold Denver wind, the city skyline sharp in the distance. The moment the chapel doors shut behind me, a tremor ran through my hands. Case Bridger had looked afraid, not nervous, not stressed, afraid, and he'd told me not to trust my own daughter. Not Iris, who used to fall asleep on my chest when thunderstorms scared her. Not Nolan, the man who always insisted on handling paperwork for the family. I could feel something shifting under my feet. Quiet, invisible fault lines cracking open. Before I could process any of it, my phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from an unknown number. "Don't go home with them. Call me when you're alone. CB." My stomach dropped. I had no idea what my wife had hidden, no idea what danger Case Bridger thought I was in, no idea what Iris or Nolan had to do with any of it. But something in the air felt wrong. Wrong enough that all the hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. And before I tell you what happened next, subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It helps more than you know. I stepped back inside, trying to look calm, trying not to give anything away. But Iris and Nolan were watching me. Too closely. They shared a glance. A silent, sharp one. The kind of glance people give each other when a plan has hit a snag. My pulse hammered as they approached. "Dad," Nolan said quietly, "we need to talk about the paperwork your wife prepared." My wife prepared paperwork. Without telling me. The room tilted. And then Nolan placed the folder into my hands. I opened it, and what I saw inside made my grief twist into something colder. Much, much colder. Because in that moment, right as I began to read, I realized my wife hadn't only been hiding a secret at work. She had been hiding a secret about our daughter. I didn't remember leaving the funeral hall. One moment I was staring at Mara's portrait on the easel, and the next I was sitting in my truck outside my own house. The Denver dusk turning the street the color of fading bruises. My hands were still trembling from what Paula had whispered to me there. Those 4 words that cracked open the floor beneath my feet. "You need to see this." I sat in the driveway for a long time before I could make myself move. My neighbors walked past, offering soft waves, but their faces blurred together. Grief makes the world look like it's behind frosted glass. When I finally stepped inside, the house felt wrong. Not empty, watched. I hung my coat on the chair instead of the hook, and that tiny break in my routine startled me more than it should have. Routine had been my anchor since Mara got sick. Now it felt like any wrong move would snap the rope entirely. From the kitchen I heard soft humming. That humming. It was my daughter, Lena. She only hummed when she was trying to pretend nothing was wrong. I forced my legs to move, stepping into the kitchen doorway. Lena was standing at the counter, her back to me, stirring something in a mug. Her husband, Colt, leaned against the stove, looking through a stack of mail with a pinched expression like the paper itself offended him. "Dad," he said without looking up. "You're late." "I didn't know I had a curfew," I said quietly. Colt smirked. The same smirk that used to bother Mara, the one she said looked like a salesman trying to charm his way out of a lie. "We were waiting for you." Lena turned then, offering me a soft, sad smile. But her eyes were calculating. "We wanted to check on you, Dad. We know how hard today was." I looked at the mug in her hand. Steam curled over the rim. Coffee. The smell hit me hard. Too hard. My stomach tightened. "Thanks," I said, stepping sideways before she could hand it to me. "But I'm fine." She blinked, surprised. For the past several months I'd drunk every cup she handed me without thinking. But now, after what Paula told me at the funeral, doubt had lodged itself like a splinter I couldn't pull out. Colt cleared his throat. "Well, since you're here, we should go over the paperwork. It's just a few signatures, and it will help you manage everything now that Mara's gone." My chest tightened. "What kind of paperwork?" He slid a blue folder across the island. "Routine stuff. Access to accounts. Authority to finalize her employment. Records. Denver Architectural Board forms. You know, closing the chapter neatly." I hadn't even opened it yet, but I already knew something was wrong. My wife was the most meticulous payroll supervisor in the city. Every decimal exactly where it belonged. Whatever she had found at her firm, whatever had terrified her enough to warn her boss, it had to be connected to this. I placed my hand on the folder but didn't open it. "I'll look later," I murmured. "You need to sign tonight," Colt said, his voice sharper. "Deadlines are real, Frank." Lena shot him a quick glare, trying to smooth over his roughness. "Dad, please. We're only trying to help. Mom would want us to take care of you." That sentence. That exact sentence. The one people use when they want you to stop thinking. I steadied myself on the counter. "Let me breathe for one night." Lena hesitated. Colt didn't. He stepped forward, voice hardening into something ugly. "You don't understand what's at stake here." I lifted my head slowly. "And what exactly is at stake?" Silence. Too much silence. Then Lena stepped between us, touching my arm. "Dad, please just rest. We'll talk tomorrow morning." They left shortly after, but not far. I heard their car doors slam, then linger. Too long. As if waiting. Watching. After they finally drove away, I locked the door and leaned against it, the folder still clutched in my fist. Paula's warning replayed in my mind. Your wife found something she shouldn't have, and whatever it is, it's not just about her job. It touches you too. I opened the folder. My heart stopped. Forms authorizing financial transfers. Documents connecting my name to accounts I had never seen. A signature line waiting for me at the bottom. They wanted me to take the fall. For whatever Mara discovered. For whatever they were hiding. And then something else caught my eye. A sticky note. In my wife's handwriting. Just 3 words. "Do not sign." My knees gave out, and I finally understood. My daughter wasn't helping me. My son-in-law wasn't supporting me. They were closing the trap. Before I could even process the warning she left behind, someone knocked on my door. Slow, deliberate, and dangerous. And when I opened it, I realized Mara wasn't the only one who had been watching me. I did not remember walking from the front hallway to the couch. 1 minute I was staring at the door my daughter and her husband had just walked through. The next, I was sitting with my elbows on my knees, trying to breathe. The house felt wrong. My wife, Lena, had filled this place with warmth for more than 4 decades. Now every corner felt like it belonged to strangers. I kept hearing what I had overheard at the funeral. Cora telling Julian he needed to push the signatures through before the official review. I had pretended not to hear. Grief makes you slow, makes you want to believe your own child would never weaponize it against you. But what they just tried to make me sign in my own living room. It was not grief. It was strategy. The blue folder was still sitting on the coffee table where Cora had placed it. A neat little package of panic. My name was printed on the top page, neatly, coldly. I did not touch it. I did not even want to breathe near it. Instead, I stared at it the way a man stares at a snake coiled in the grass. The house made a small settling sound, wood cracking as it adjusted to the temperature. It made me jump like a rookie on a job site. I rubbed my palms on my jeans, grounding myself. Lena would know what to do. She always saw danger before I noticed a crack. My throat tightened at the thought of her, tired eyes, trembling hands, trying to hide how much worse she was getting. At the time, we thought exhaustion from her work as a payroll supervisor was drowning her. She handled thousands of employees. Money passed through her hands every day, and she was meticulous with every decimal. Now I wondered if something or someone was draining her much earlier than we realized. I stood and walked into the kitchen, needing air even though it was the same stale house air. I filled a glass with tap water. My hand shook, not from age, from dread. Then my phone buzzed. The screen lit up with an unknown number. I didn't answer right away. Something about Cora and Julian's behavior had fractured my trust in everyone. But the phone buzzed again and again, a third time. So I answered. A low voice cut in immediately. "Mr. Calder, this is Mason Ward." It took a second for the name to register. Then it hit me. Mason was Lena's former department head before she stepped into the payroll lead role. She respected him. She said he was one of the few executives she trusted. "I'm sorry to call you tonight," Mason continued, voice tight, "but I think I know what Cora and Julian handed you, and you should not sign a single page." My chest tightened. My voice came out a rasp. "How do you know?" "Because Lena came to me before she died," he said. "Something was wrong in payroll audits, wrong as in federal will come knocking wrong, and she believed someone was setting her up to take the fall." My grip tightened on the phone. "What does that have to do with me?" I asked quietly. "Everything," Mason said. "Because after she raised concerns, the access logs to her files were altered. Funds were moved. Adjustments appeared under her name. Someone was funneling money through dormant employee accounts." My stomach dropped. "And you think—" "I don't think." His tone hardened. "I know. Your daughter's husband was one of the few with clearance. And after your wife passed, suddenly the liability trail is being pushed toward you." I stared at the glass of water in my hand as if it had betrayed me too. "Mason," I whispered, "are you saying Cora and Julian are trying to pin this scheme on me?" "Not trying," he said. "They've already laid the groundwork. What they need is your signature to finish the trap." I pressed my knuckles against my mouth, breath shaking. "Where are you now?" Mason asked. "Home," I croaked. "Do not stay there. No matter how exhausted you are, leave tonight. People who pull financial stunts like this don't stop once they start." A chill slid down my spine. I walked slowly back toward the living room. The blue folder sat there like an open grave. "Where do I go?" I whispered. "I'll tell you," Mason said. "But you need to get moving now." I stared around the house Lena and I built board by board, breath by breath, and I realized this was no longer my home. It was a crime scene waiting for a signature. Before I stepped outside, something happened in that house that forced me to run faster than I had in years. And it came from the second floor. I barely remember leaving the private investigator's office. One moment I was staring at the evidence spread across that cold glass table, and the next I was standing outside in the biting Denver air, wondering how in the world my life had unraveled so quickly. The city felt unfamiliar, hostile even. Every streetlight flickered like a warning. Every passing car made me flinch. The thought that my own daughter and her ambitious husband had tried to corner me into taking the fall for something monstrous made my hands shake as I fumbled with my keys. I needed somewhere to think, somewhere quiet, somewhere safe, but nowhere felt safe anymore. I didn't go home. I couldn't. And I certainly didn't drive to Rowan and Lila's place. Instead, I ended up in the old downtown district near the river, right outside a small 24-hour cafe I used to visit years ago when my wife Mara and I were first starting out. It was one of the few places that hadn't changed with the city. Same faded awning, same old wooden door, same humming neon sign. Inside, everything smelled like roasted coffee beans and worn-out leather seats. Something about the familiarity steadied me. I slid into a booth in the corner, my back against the wall. I refused to sit with my back to the door, not anymore. A waitress with tired eyes and a warm smile walked up. "What can I get you tonight, sweetheart?" "Just some tea," I murmured. "No coffee." She nodded without asking why. While she walked away, the weight of what I had learned earlier pressed down on me again. Mara had not been sick. She had been poisoned slowly, deliberately, and the people she had once considered family had planned for me to take the fall for the embezzlement she uncovered. I rubbed my temples, trying to chase away the nausea climbing up my throat. My daughter Sage had always been strong-willed, but she used to have a good heart. And her husband, Nolan, I never trusted him. Too polished, too smooth, the kind of man who looked at you like he was calculating something. Your worth, your usefulness. Mara had tried to warn me, even from her hospital bed. I had been too blinded by grief to see it. My tea arrived, steaming gently. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug and tried to steady my pulse. I replayed the investigator's words. They needed someone to pin it on, someone close, someone who wouldn't fight back. That someone was me. My phone vibrated in my pocket. I nearly dropped the cup. I pulled it out. 2 missed calls from Sage, 1 from Nolan, 1 from the house landline. 4 calls in under an hour. They had realized I was gone. My breath hitched. Were they looking for me? Driving around the city, calling every friend? I pictured Nolan pacing like a cornered wolf, calculating where I might run. I couldn't go to the police yet. Not until I understood everything. So I called one person I had not spoken to in months. My estranged younger brother, Callum. A man I had pushed away over a stupid disagreement. But right now he was the only person I trusted who had no ties to Sage or Nolan. He picked up on the second ring. "You all right?" he asked immediately. "It's 1 in the morning." "No," I whispered. "No, Cal, I'm not all right. Something's happened and I can't talk over the phone. Can you meet me?" There was a pause, then a steady, grounded answer. "Tell me where." I gave him the cafe address. He said he'd be there within 15 minutes. When he arrived, he took one look at me and slid into the booth without a word. "What's going on?" he asked, voice low. I leaned in and told him everything, from Mara's discovery of the payroll fraud, to Sage and Nolan's pressure to make me sign documents, to the evidence the investigator uncovered. My voice cracked more than once. Callum didn't interrupt. His jaw tightened, but he listened. When I finally finished, he exhaled sharply. "Good Lord," he muttered. "You were right not to go home. They won't stop, you know. People like Nolan, they double down when they're cornered." "I know," I whispered. "But what do I do?" "Mara trusted me to finish what she started." Callum leaned forward, eyes steady. "Then we find exactly what she saw. Whatever she uncovered at that company, that's what they're trying to destroy. And if she left anything behind, notes, files, anything, your house is the first place they'd look. We need to beat them to it." I felt a cold chill run down my spine. He was right. If Mara left evidence, and if Sage and Nolan were already searching the house, we needed to move fast, because whatever my wife discovered was worth killing for. And in that moment, sitting in a dingy Denver cafe with my brother across from me, I realized that the real danger had only just begun, because Mara's final secret was still hidden somewhere, and the people hunting for it were willing to do anything to find it first. I didn't remember leaving the tower lobby. One moment I was staring at the evidence on Rowan's screen, and the next I was outside in the frigid Denver night, my breath turning to smoke as I tried to steady myself. The streets were quiet, too quiet, like the city itself was holding its breath. I felt older than my years, but also sharper than I had since my wife died. Fear has a way of waking parts of you that grief had put to sleep. Rowan stood beside me, hands tucked into the pockets of his battered field jacket. "You all right?" he asked. "I'm breathing," I said. "That's about all I've got right now." He nodded once. "Good enough. Let's move." We walked toward his truck, an old charcoal pickup with a dented side and a cracked taillight, the kind of vehicle no one would give a second look. He opened the passenger door for me, and as I climbed in, I realized my hands were still trembling. Not from age, not anymore, but from the expectation of what came next. Rowan started the engine. The rumble was low, steady, comforting in an odd way. "Where are we going?" I asked. "Back to where this started," he said. "Your house." My stomach tightened. "My daughter and her husband. They're there?" "Most likely," he said. "But don't worry, we won't be going inside." I stared at him, unsure whether to feel relieved or terrified. "We need the original documents your wife preserved," Rowan continued. "The old ledger, the hard copy payroll logs she kept before the system went digital. That's what she used to cross-check the fraud. And that's the one thing your daughter and that greedy bastard she married couldn't erase." My pulse jumped. "She kept them in her craft room," I said. "Top cabinet. Far right." Rowan nodded, merging into the dark avenue. "Then that's where we'll look." The closer we got to my neighborhood, the quieter I became. Every street lamp felt like an interrogation light. Every passing car felt like surveillance. By the time we turned onto my block, my jaw was locked tight. Rowan cut the headlights and rolled to a stop half a block away. "There," he whispered. My house glowed softly under the porch light. The same warm light my wife always insisted we keep on. It used to mean welcome home. Now it felt like bait. Through the living room blinds I saw movement, two shadows crossing back and forth. My daughter, her husband, waiting. "Looks like they're pacing near the front window," Rowan murmured. "They're anxious. They're desperate," I corrected. "They know the payroll scheme is going to collapse without someone left holding the blame." Rowan nodded. "Exactly why we stay out of sight." We circled around through the backyards, keeping low, the cold grass soaking my shoes. My heart hammered against my ribs as we reached the small basement window under the hydrangea bushes, the one I had crawled out of the night I ran. "Still busted," Rowan said, brushing away dirt from the cracked latch. "Good for us." He slid the window up slowly. The faint scent of sawdust drifted out. My workshop, my refuge, my prison. "I'll go first," he said, lowering himself through the opening in one fluid motion. When he signaled, I followed, dropping onto the basement floor with a soft grunt. The house above us creaked, the old familiar wood settling, but every sound now felt like a threat. Rowan motioned for silence as we crept toward the stairs leading to the main level. He didn't let me go up. Instead, he pointed to the side cabinet where I kept rarely used tools, the cabinet with the false bottom my wife had insisted we install to hide emergency cash years ago. I blinked at him. "How did you—" "Your wife told me everything she could before she passed," he whispered. "She knew she was running out of time." My throat tightened painfully. Together we pulled the cabinet forward. Rowan reached behind it, sliding his fingers along the underside until he found the hidden latch. The false bottom popped open with a muted click. Inside was an oversized binder wrapped in brown paper labeled in my wife's handwriting. "Payroll, cross-check logs, hard copies." I ran my thumb across her script. For a moment I couldn't breathe. Rowan took the binder gently. "This is enough to bury the whole scheme," he whispered. "But we're not out yet." Footsteps thumped overhead. We both froze. Voices. My daughter's husband, sharp, annoyed. My daughter, shaky, frantic. They were searching, and they were getting closer. Rowan leaned in close. "Time to leave the way we came," he whispered. "But be ready. They're not giving up." As Rowan pushed open the basement window, binder in hand, a sudden beam of light swept across the yard, and someone outside called my name in a low, chilling voice. I do not remember standing up from that conference table. I only remember the way the words "your daughter planned this" kept circling in my skull like a swarm of hornets. By the time Rick and Mr. Thorne walked me into the small private office next door, my legs felt like wet paper. I dropped into the chair, breathing hard, trying to keep my ribs from shaking. "Warren," Thorne said gently, "you need to hear the rest." I didn't want the rest. I wanted to go back to the man I was a day ago. A widower in Denver, grieving but grounded, believing his daughter Amara was the bright, ambitious girl I'd raised, and that her husband, the payroll supervisor, Mateo, was the responsible, calm one who steadied her. But that man was gone. The truth had burned him away. Rick set down a second folder. "This part is about you," he said. "The evidence that clears you completely, and the evidence that reveals their plan. Slowly, like someone cracking open a door to a room they feared, I looked down at the papers. Forgery reports. Deposit logs falsified in my name. Transfer orders created from my company accounts into shell accounts tied to Mateo's cousin. And then, the worst of it, a pre-written confession letter neatly typed, with my signature copied and pasted onto the bottom. A confession to embezzlement. A confession that blamed everything on desperation after my wife died. A confession timed to go public on the same week the forged transfers were scheduled to hit. I swallowed, but the air scraped like sandpaper in my throat. "They wanted you gone," Rick said quietly. "Not just dead, disgraced. And the moment the investigation landed on your name, their hands would be clean." "But why?" I whispered. "Why would my own daughter do this?" Rick didn't look away. "Because your wife found the scheme before she got sick. She traced the fake payroll groups. She traced the siphoned bonuses. She traced everything straight to Mateo. But she didn't know Amara was involved until later." Thorne nodded. "Your wife confronted them. Quietly. Privately. She gave them a chance to come clean. They panicked. And then the illnesses began." My hands tightened on the arms of the chair. 6 months ago, when my wife started trembling after her morning tea, when she stopped trusting her sense of balance, when she told me softly, "Something is wrong. I don't feel right." And the doctors, all baffled, had simply called it aging. My voice cracked. So they killed her because she was in the way." Rick exhaled. "Yes. And they were killing you because the financial trail pointed to her. And to you. You were the only loose end." The room tilted. My heartbeat thudded in my skull. "What do we do now?" I managed. This time, Thorne stepped closer. "We take it to the authorities, but on our terms. My company's legal team is already preparing a controlled handover. Rick will testify. The original files your wife saved will be included. You won't have to set foot near your house again." I closed my eyes. My wife's handwriting, her envelope, her secret investigation, her final act of love. She saved me. She gave her last strength to protect me. And now my daughter, my only child, was going to prison for orchestrating her death. Tears came hot and sudden. "She was trying to keep you alive, Warren," Thorne said softly. "Let the truth finish what she started." The next 72 hours moved like a storm. Rick handed everything to the Denver Financial Crimes Unit. The detectives moved fast, frighteningly fast. Once they saw the forged payroll groups, the poison reports, the video surveillance, the confession file, Mateo was arrested first outside his office. Amara was taken into custody that same evening, still wearing the scarf she claimed belonged to her mother. When they saw me at the station later, not in handcuffs, not dead, not confused or frail, their faces told the whole story. Shock, then fear, then fury at being caught. I didn't speak to them. There was nothing left to say. A week later, I stood alone at Clearview Park, the one my wife loved, where she always said the city looked a little softer from afar. The sun was dipping behind the Denver skyline, painting the glass towers in warm gold. I held her envelope in my hand, the original one, her handwriting faded but still elegant. I whispered, "You saved me, love," and I felt it, a small, gentle peace settling in my chest. Not victory, not triumph, just clarity. The truth was heavy, but it was finally mine to carry, and I would carry it honestly, for both of us. And if you've been listening this far, subscribe to the channel and let me know in the comments what time it is where you're watching from. It helps more than you know.